Hi there, welcome to FMCG by Alex. My name is Alex, and today I would like to take you on a deep dive in my favorite category for FMCG, which is coffee. I'm a coffee lover myself. So let's start with the category overview. So you have a lot of different types of coffee, a lot of different ways to package it, sell it, interest consumers. First, of course, is ground coffee. So this is actually coffee beans ground to powder. This is quite a common thing to see in supermarkets, usually associated with more low-end consumers who already want to have it ground. Whole beans coffee has a more premium air to it. It's because the people have a machine that actually grinds the beans, or they do it manually. That's sometimes also still the case. This is a bit more about preserving the taste of the coffee beans. Then you have instant coffee, which coffee powder basically. Then coffee pods and capsules. So Nespresso is one of the examples. That is a very high-end barista experience. Coffee pods and capsules brand. Then you have ready-to-drink coffee. Now that is both stuff that you basically could buy in, let's say, a Starbucks, but in supermarkets, for example, you also have iced coffee, things that are ready to drink inside the supermarket or in the chiller of the supermarket, where they have already a cold beverage for you with the coffee flavor. Then flavored and specialty coffee. So flavored actually would mean that you have a hazelnut variety, for example, or caramel, all sorts of flavors that are added to coffee. And specialty coffee can also be the single origin, so it's actually from a single estate type of thing. Specialty coffee in the sense of it has a more premium air to it. Then decaffeinated coffee. The name says it already. There's no caffeine in it, or lower caffeine, low caffeine, or no caffeine. Then ethical and sustainable coffee is the way they grow it, so that is more a label that is put onto regular coffee, but the way it's grown and the way it's harvested, and has a more an eco-friendly type of vibe to it. It's a way of selling coffee, I guess. And then you have coffee mixes, very low-end product, which is includes 3-in-1. Normally, this is more sugar and milk powder combined with ground coffee. The ground coffee that is used is basically the leftovers. Not all brands are leftovers. There are some very premium brands, of course, brands that are also using premium coffee for it. So usually these are more expensive ones. The cheaper ones, the lower end of the market, you will see also that the coffee is actually like broken beans or stuff they can't possibly sell anymore. Now that is the leftovers. It's actually a rest product, so to speak. And next time you try a 3-in-1, think of it's very high in sugar. You have 3-in-1s without sugar as well, but it's a mass market product. Massive quantities are being sold, and once in a while, a pick me up with that is not a bad thing. But be careful with it, because it can be very damaging for your health. Then you have artisanal and specialty coffee. Again, this is something where maybe from a single origin type of estate, where you basically have a certain way of producing the coffee, roasted by very small quantities, for example, like batches that are coming, roasted at this time. It's almost like wine, the way they sell it. And then last but not least, you have coffee substitutes, like, for example, coffee made from mushrooms. That's one of the substitutes that exist. So it's reason I numbered it is actually that it's a very broad category. If you look at coffee, it's probably the most consumed beverage after water in the world. So before tea. So this is actually a hugely popular category for FMCG to dive into. A lot of the coffee brands that are getting their coffee basically from various sources is Indonesia is a very famous coffee country. Java, hot cup of Java, that the name says it already. Africa is coffee beans are grown there as well. Of course, you have India. You have basically South America is probably the most famous part of the world where coffee beans come from. So there are various places where coffee is grown. Europe itself doesn't have any coffee plantations. Neither has the United States. So, in the end, you have a specific climate you need for growing coffee. And coffee is normally graded, so you have premium coffee. So, what is premium coffee? Now, yeah, you can slap premium on, a label on the packaging and then say it's premium coffee. But premium basically means also the grading. So it's the best beans. Beans have to have a specific certification, specific color, specific ripening, basically. So in the end, this is the term premium coffee comes to that, and then you have different grades. So grades below that. It doesn't mean the coffee is bad. It's just that the way the bean looks and the best quality coffee basically is the premium coffee. A very famous example is, you wouldn't expect that actually, but Dunkin' Donuts in the United States, they have a reputation for sourcing the best coffee. So they only use the best coffee. They have premium quality and they have DDQ, which is Dunkin' Donuts quality. So next time you are in doubt whether or not to grab a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, I warmly recommend it to you because DDQ, Dunkin' Donuts quality, is the highest quality coffee. You have to imagine coffee itself, of course, has a lot of different flavors. So if you look at Robusta and Arabica, so for those of you who don't know what Robusta or Arabica means, so those are the two flavors. So before everything was Arabica, Robusta is actually only has the acidity of coffee, so it doesn't have this flavor, this aftertaste. So if you look at cheap coffee, the cheapest coffee is Robusta coffee. There are blends where you blend some Arabica with Robusta. So if you say, "Oh, I have someone who likes only Robusta," then they probably just like the acidity of the coffee taste, and the Arabica drinkers are people who really are, like, say, coffee lovers who like to have a subtle aftertaste with their coffee. So you already can guess that Robusta is the cheaper of the two. This is actually a mass-produced variety where it's not bad. Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm judging anyone who's drinking Robusta or a blend of Robusta and Arabica, but I mean, it was used before as an Arabica substitute because Arabica coffee became too expensive. And then at some point, they found out that Robusta is actually something that they could also use in order to replace that. So people who actually don't know the difference between Robusta and Arabica, and hereby it's explained. So Arabica has really a different flavor profile. If you look at, for example, just the Indonesian coffees I really like very much. If you look at Toraya or Gayo, or, like I personally, I've invested in a company in Bali, which is Pupuan Arabica coffee, basically. So from Kintamani in Bali, also you have quite a lot of, it's quite a famous brand. So quite a famous origin, I would say. All these have different flavor profiles. So whether you like it chocolatey, whether you like it acidic, whether you like, personally, I'm also very fond of the Mandiling flavor, which is also a very specific. Doesn't have a very acidic aftertaste. Personally, I prefer that one. Everybody has their own preference. So in the end, you have to see that coffee is a bit like, almost like wine or beer or chocolate. It can taste different from different suppliers, different areas, different origins. The soil can make a difference. And if you are looking at enjoying life, I guess good food and good beverages are part of it. I'm a chubby guy myself, so I live what I preach, or I do what I preach. So in the end, this is one of the things, that coffee is one of the enjoyments where people say, okay, it gives you energy and all those things. So coffee and sugar gives you energy, really gives you a boost. Yeah, it spikes your energy level for a moment. That's why coffee with sugar is actually almost like an energy drink. That's why a lot of energy drinks also have caffeine in them. Coca-Cola, so in essence, is a caffeinated drink. So this is one of the things that I wanted to share with you about coffee and how coffee. I'm not an expert by any means. There are a lot of people who know much more about coffee than me, but this is something I personally enjoy drinking coffee, and I'm an Arabica fan, basically. So that's as far as I go with the analysis of coffee tastes and coffee flavors. Just with regards to this, yeah, for Arabica coffee, you can of course command a more premium price than for Robusta, like I mentioned. And there are, of course, a lot of different gradings that, for example, you have for specialty coffee also coffee luwak. So luwak is a small animal that it sounds very disgusting if you think about it, but it digests the coffee beans, and then from the excrement, actually, people are picking out the and washing it, of course, very well. Don't get me wrong, but it does something inside the intestines or the digestive tract of the animal to take out the acidity level or makes it special. And there are several countries where this is absolutely, the latest craze of for many years already. It's a premium sort of product, and yeah, it commands quite a high price. Personally, I believe, yeah, it's also animal cruelty, because at some point, if you see, oh, all these animals are in cages and you're feeding them coffee beans all the time just to collect them later on when they are going through the motion, so to speak. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit like putting chickens in a coop and forcing them to lay eggs, like a very small space or something like that. So free roaming from nature, actually, of course, yeah, it comes from there, but that's one of the things I also wanted to point out. So then an overview of the distribution channels. So distribution channels for coffee are, of course, hyper super, so hypermarket, supermarket, so you buy them packaged. Then you have convenience stores. Convenience stores also often have this, ready to drink sort of service, where you basically have a way to buy both packaged coffee to bring home and make yourself, or you can make it there on the spot, coffee machine, or indeed this 3-in-1, depending on the market and the segment you are in. Then online, because online has no shelf space, you can find the most exotic, brands and flavors and origins, I guess, from all over the world online. So if you look at Amazon itself, for example, there's a lot of different choices of coffee. I would also suggest very much, if you have a coffee brand that you are only selling in retail, or you are starting a coffee brand, yeah, start online. Online is where you get the traction initially, and then you can use that to go into retail. Then Horeca, that is the broadest thing, can be a coffee shop, can be a hotel, restaurant, cafe, catering, all these places. So all these places where you actually are consuming coffee, ordering coffee, and you consume it directly. Then there are some brands who are doing direct to consumer. So you can actually have like a coffee of the month club, for example, where every month they are sending you, a different type of coffee, or whenever your coffee is low, there is a signal to the company that supplies you coffee and says, okay, I need to send you more beans tomorrow. All these things exist. This is also, for premium coffee. It's not a cheap thing where they do it with the most inexpensive coffee. Obviously, this is people who are really taking coffee drinking very serious. Then specialist retail. So there are really specialist coffee stores in the Netherlands, for example. You have a lot of these concepts where they're capitalizing very much on coffee and chocolate as a combination. Chocolate and coffee go well together. But specialist retail, where you can get the most exotic coffee brands, all the origins in the world, etc. Then you have vending machines, of course, usually not the best reputation, but some vending machines are really producing very decent results. So you say, okay, this is definitely not a punishment to drink coffee from a vending machine. Technology also advances, therefore the barista experience is also there from vending machines. It's not like an espresso machine, but close enough. Then for health conscious coffee brands, is that you have pharmacies and drugstores. So these are normally products that have more of a health edge, where they are promising sort of health benefits. Basically, some are proven, some are pending, so to speak. Used to have some 3-in-1 in Indonesia, for example, that was also claiming to have some sort of health benefit, but in the end, it contained a lot of sugar, and it wasn't as healthy as people thought. It was actually unhealthy, so they had to remove that. I'm not mentioning the brand, obviously. Then you have duty free and travel retail. So this is also one of the things that is quite interesting. So duty free is, of course, a very premium sort of segment to shop. Like you have at the airport, you bring something. It's normally one of the things you bring for someone because it's the most consumed beverage after water in the world. You have quite a lot of coffee drinkers in your surroundings, no doubt. Unless you really come from a tea drinking family, then it's maybe less. But usually, you know at least one or two people who drink coffee, and you would like to bring something for them. Now, this is one of the things, like for example, that the company I just mentioned, Moja Coffee from Bali, it's from Bali. So when you are on holiday in Bali, the idea is actually you bring a souvenir from Bali, which could also be coffee. So in the end, travel retail is very important. The souvenir stores where you have a local delicacy, a really local product that has been produced locally. That's one of the things that you need to imagine that travel retail comes into play, where you can find that sort of thing. This is quite a good present for people to bring, and normally you have these packaging is also a little bit more frivolous and I guess more premium packaging they use to convey the experience there. And then, of course, you have wholesalers and box stores. Now, it's not so much for consumers, although if you go to Costco or maybe a cash and carry wholesaler, then you can buy really large bulk packaging of beans or ground coffee or a lot of individual packages of 3-in-1 basically. So normally larger packaging stores basically. So these are the distribution channels. Like I mentioned, coffee has a quite a long shelf date. If you look at coffee in sense of maybe a year, basically is quite common for products to be able to stay on the shelf. It's just as long as you keep it dry, keep it also well packaged. So as soon as there is a leak in the packaging, you smell the coffee. As soon as you smell the coffee, there's a leak. So that is actually something I learned from all my years of distributing coffee also. As soon as you smell the coffee, then there is a leak in the packaging. So that can smell very nice. Don't get me wrong; it's wonderful to be in a room that's filled with a coffee smell as a coffee lover. But normally it indicates that there is something wrong with the packaging, and that can also affect the taste when you actually run it through a coffee machine. So that's something I need to point out here. So again, marketing a coffee brand is maybe not the how-to approach you are maybe waiting for, but because there's a lot of depth, of course, to this, and there's a lot of skilled marketers who have many ways of adding on to this. But in essence, it comes down to you are looking at which segment are you playing in. If you're looking at a lower segment, so middle low consumers, basically, you need to be at least in the price range of these consumers. So price leadership might be one of the things where you say, I'm the lowest cost producer, therefore I also can command the lowest possible selling price. Now, and then based on price and acceptable taste, of course, because in the end it all comes down to acceptable taste. That combination is what you're looking for. So this price leadership is one of the things that is really applying only for lower end brands, basically. Then product differentiation. So differentiation is always a sign of if you don't play on price, you play on product differentiations. Product differentiation can be both packaging, can be origin, can be the story behind it. So the storytelling is also very important behind brands. Where does it come from? It's not only the what, but also the why. So who is making this? Is it actually improving people's lives? Again, this Balinese coffee that I was talking about, you have the image. This is palm trees, waterfall, people working in the fields, plucking, picking the coffee, basically. All these things are, idyllic ideas where we're trying to make sure that the story of the brand is actually resonating with the customer. So if you look at different parts of the world, in the US and in Europe, you have very important, the social impact is very important, where it means, okay, you should not have child labor, you should not have slave labor, you should be sustainable, you should have various other environmental impact studies actually backing you up that your coffee is grown in a sustainable way. It's not only saying, it's actually also proving it. Yeah, so there are a lot of certificates and certifications that prove that you are growing your coffee without, children picking it, for example. So, I mean, that's one of the things that is very important in Europe and the US, where the what is also is important, but the why is more important. Like why and the story behind it. Can I, you know, am I helping making the world a better place? Normally, people with money have that luxury to say that. Yeah, you I have a good income. You have more luxury to say, okay, let me do something to improve the world. If you are up to here in problems, yeah, that is a luxury you might not have at a particular moment. So these are stages of what people care about. So you will look at certain markets where this is not an issue, so where they say, okay, I just want to have good coffee at a good price. That's storytelling is less important, and then the product differentiation. Okay, the packaging, for example, for these markets where sustainability is very important, there should not be plastic on it. Maybe biodegradable packaging. Other markets, you say, okay, if the product is not packaged in a certain way, it might not, resonate with customers. Now, one of the things I notice very much, coffee is an experiential product, so you should really focus on sampling if you do marketing for a brand like this. Converting one customer at a time, one consumer at a time, with the taste of your product. If your product tastes well, tastes good to people, yeah, that's usually the only thing that matters. Regarding the entire story, that's an added bonus. But in the end, if the dogs don't like your dog food, the packaging doesn't matter. That's, I think, the former CEO of P&G told us that in a previous lifetime. And then, of course, yeah, to get the word out, because yeah, you can have very good coffee and then one consumer at a time sampling, that can take quite a long time to get critical mass where you say, okay, now I can live from it. And it's also an investment, obviously. So the power of influencers. If your influencers actually like your coffee, or a celebrity likes your celebrity endorsements, basically. So you have, of course, Nespresso. That's basically George Clooney. Of course, is very famous for these Nespresso commercials. Now, he got paid very well. I don't know whether he really likes Nespresso or not, whether he drinks coffee or not, but I would like to think so. He would like to think he does. But that's a very powerful. Celebrity endorsement to put behind your brand, of course. But if you don't have the budget to hire George Clooney, or he's busy, which both cases is very likely, then of course smaller influencers, local influencers, people that really would like to say something positive about your brand, and maybe you have to pay them a little bit to do so. But I mean, it's like television airtime for commercials, commercial airtime, basically, that you need to pay influencers to get the word out to their people. Hey, this is coffee, you should try this, etc., etc. Keep in mind, though, that nowadays influencers, I've covered this part in a previous video on marketing, that nowadays influencers are already seen as not unbiased. So basically, they get paid for this sort of stuff. So this is nice. Yeah, how much value would you put to that? If it's a very big influencer who is pushing something else every week, other than maybe smaller influencers who still might have a bit more of a pure image. Yeah, not saying that they are more pure than the large influencers, but a pure image, at least, where you get the impression that they are genuinely liking something, or the way they present it could also be a fresh approach, basically. So that is, sampling and the power of influencers are the two things I would really, think you focus on, combined with starting online with your distribution. So these are the takeaways to start a new coffee brand. There are also coffee brands that are attached more towards to celebrities itself, so celebrities who are actually attaching themselves to a coffee brand. So you used to have in the Netherlands that actually never really took off, unfortunately. I also was part of the distribution team at that time. It's the coffee for Gordon. Gordon is a very famous singer in the Netherlands, television personality, comedian. He's basically very, very much out there, very outspoken person, and he had the idea at some point to start a coffee brand. Now, so this coffee brand we trialed in a couple of stores, and it didn't sell. So in the end, it is not always a runaway hit, basically, because Gordon himself, yeah, he was received very positively by many, also maybe not so much by others. Yeah, there's fans and haters always in every for every celebrity, but I mean, this gentleman was genuinely very much a coffee lover, so he thought that that would translate into people who follow him, that they would say, "Oh yeah, I know that about Gordon. That he knows what good coffee is." Not illogical in my opinion. So we trialed it, but it never really took off, unfortunately. And yeah, the brand has disappeared from the market since. So that was an example of where it didn't work out, but it does start with a very famous person who puts his or her name to it, or puts at least the shoulders behind, shoulders under it, basically, or their weight behind it. That would definitely go a long way in order to get the word out, because it's a very low threshold entry. Everybody can buy beans and say, "Hey, I start a coffee brand." So in the end, to do it right and to get some traction in the market is difficult, because there's a lot of companies offering it, and a lot of competitions. Like I said, the market is huge. Like, it's again second beverage after water, but it means also there are a lot of players at home in that market. And if you look at some of the largest coffee companies in the world, yeah, they are absolutely massive powerhouses. You can't dislodge, or can't even hope to dislodge, in a million years. So when you launch a brand, keep your expectations also within reason, like manage your expectations to a reasonable level. So there is a lot of money to be made still for smaller brands. Just saying, like, there is a saturation level. Of course, you see usually there's an explosion of new brands. There is suddenly consolidation, but there are very good examples of brands that do very well with this differentiation. For example, there is a Rage Coffee from India, for example. Is a very fast-growing brand. They have not only done the regular Arabica and Robusta version, but they have flavored it with things that apparently Indian consumers are very much in love with. So they've grown exponentially in India, which is of course one of the largest markets in the world for any products, so FMCG markets basically. Yeah, huge population. And they've gone into adjacent products. So they have like some cookies with coffee flavor. That's the same thing we did with Moja Coffee in Bali, cookies with coffee flavor. And for example, for Moja Coffee in Bali, we actually had kombucha and coffee. So kombucha coffee, kombucha they call it. This is actually one of the ideas where you say, okay, rather than me baking cookies myself or developing it myself, I'm partnering with another brand, and we are doing this connection with another brand, and then their consumers might be interested in our product and the other way around. So you have that sort of unique cooperations. So I've been talking about Moja Coffee very much in this video. So shameless plug here by mojacoffeebali.com. That's the website. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.